There is a goodness that's beyond our own ability. It comes from the very character of God. But from His goodness, we can engage our abilities as He shapes His goodness into our character. And then we have power, the power to intentionally live our lives that has meaning and joy. We're beginning our 8th month of COVID-19. And in the midst of this amazing and desperate season, we find ourselves surrounded all around by change, adjustments, pivot, adapting, moving through the difficulties which are there, and we can ask ourselves, what can I do? And what we can do is be responsible for ourselves in light of God. Psalm 100 shows us how. It's a brief psalm. It's a psalm of 5 verses. It culminates in one of the most cherished phrases of truth and promise in the Psalter. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good, for His love endures forever. That's the direction the psalm is going. We find that phrase also in Psalm 106, 107, and Psalm 118 and elsewhere. It's the very character of God to know that at the heart of God is the heart of goodness. This goodness then is our pathway to find the meaning of how we can become a person who makes a good kind of difference in our world. And then it is this steadfast love that enables us to know that we can love. It's in John who would say in his epistles, because God first loved us, we can know how to love. And the very essence of God's goodness is the heartbeat of love. So here's how the psalm goes. It opens with shout for joy. We have a reason to raise our voices with a laughter in our soul. That reason is a joy that comes from beyond us but includes us. This goodness and this steadfast love of God. So what we can do in this COVID-19 season when many people around the world are exhausted by these adjustments. Earlier today, I received a phone call from a good friend of mine from West Africa. And the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has had a ravaging effect on people's lives there as elsewhere. Now we're living our lives with a confidence. We're living our lives in light of the circumstances. Out of the goodness of God, then we in these times help to show a goodness into our world. That's why we can shout for joy that is not controlled by human circumstances, though influenced by the times in which we live, but the goodness goes out to make a shape into these circumstances. Shout for joy to the Lord. And that is, to the Lord is how we wake up in the mornings. And, oh God, good Lord, it's morning, or Lord, is it really good morning? There is this relationship with God that can draw out a strength beyond our own native strength that then gets us out of bed in the day, gives a quick step to the cadence of our walk because we're moving in a direction of His. As we shout for the joy to the Lord, all the earth, this is inclusive of everyone. This is inclusive of all that God has created, which He has done out of His goodness, and therefore to be shared by all, and to help let everyone on the earth to know that goodness. Then we may worship the Lord with gladness. So we move from simply an exclamation mark of shout for joy to the intentional way of bringing ourselves into the goodness of God in a response of worship. The English word worship comes from the old Anglo-Saxon of worth-ship. That God is worth. He's the state or condition of what truly is most worthy. Not gold, not silver, not bank accounts filled with many zeros. But a goodness that comes from the character of God is priceless and yet available for everyone. That's why we can shout for joy. All the earth, this is inclusive of all that God has created and everyone who walks upon the face of the earth. And as we worship the Lord, then we take in His prominence within our life. We come before him with joyful songs. A second time in this brief psalm, the word joy is mentioned. Joy is a pervasive character in the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation. I hope it is in your life. I pray that as you pray the Psalms, you may feel the joy growing inside you, the joy of his presence that then gives an elation in how you live each day. Know that the Lord is God. That is in verse 3. The heart within Psalm 100 is knowing that we know that the Lord is God, it is he who made us and we are his. We know to whom we belong. We know that our lives matter because his internal creation is continuing to shape his force within our life. We have a personal knowledge, the intimacy of knowing this in our life, and that if he has made us, there is a goodness that we can always count on in the midst of bad times. And through these bad times, we can make them into good times. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. The sheep of his pasture is the reference of the shepherd image in the Psalms, which is so important. David, who wrote many Psalms, was called the shepherd king. And that is his people, meaning that because we are his, we are under his leadership, his influence. And as we come then in this relationship with God, in worship, verse 4 says, enter his gates with thanksgiving. There's a natural relationship of joy and awareness that leads us to thanksgiving. Happy people are a grateful people. A grateful people for the character of God and the character of God at work in our lives, that we then may give thanks by how we express our gratitude to the Lord each day in our relationship with other people. Praying the Psalms then is praying with the spirit of a gratitude in our life. The life includes us, though it's not just about us. We're into his courts with praise. We give thanks to him and praise his name. Again, the word praise is a way of extending ourselves. It's a way of stretching our soul. And in our worship and our daily life, it must be anchored in the awareness of who the Lord is, that then draws out this natural gratitude that keeps us centered in uncentered times. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all the generations. That's a promise of God, is that God wins. God is one who creates acorns to be planted, and in the planting of the acorns, knowing that a mighty oak will grow. As we then partner with God to plant those acorns in our world, we ourselves won't see the mighty oak reach its fulfillment, but because we believe in the future shaped by God that we may play a part, we will partner in the planting of the acorns, so that under the shade of the mighty oak tree, there is a wonder of God from our lives, giving hope into a troubled world. Let it be of you to know that you are the one who has the power to shout for joy, and let that be a contagious expression of your gratitude into our world. For the Lord is good, and his steadfast love endures forever.